Welcome to the Making a Multi-Million-Dollar MEDSPA podcast, where we dive into the art and science of building a thriving MEDSPA. I'm your host, Matt Taranto. In this podcast, we're all about empowering medical professionals and entrepreneurs like you with the knowledge, tools, and inspiration needed to elevate your practice to new heights. Whether you're just starting your journey or you're a seasoned expert looking to expand, this is the place where the industry's brightest minds come together to share their secrets to success. So sit back, relax, and get ready to unlock the potential of your MEDSPA with the Making a Multi-Million-Dollar MEDSPA podcast. Let's go on this journey together, one success story at a time. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Making a Multi-Million-Dollar MEDSPA podcast. Today's episode is a special one for lots of reasons. Not only does this incredible episode come straight from the Expert Exchange course within Mint's online e-courses, but it is recorded conversation between renowned plastic surgeon Dr. Jay Burns and my very own husband and business partner, Matt Taranto. We recorded this episode as a two-part series with the interview with Dr. Burns kicking off the conversation. The second part is a Q&A where you can submit questions for Matt to answer. If you have questions, you can submit them at the link in the show notes, via email, or on our social media. We hope you love this sneak peek at the Expert Exchange and enjoy getting to know Matt a bit better. Enjoy.
Welcome. Today we're here with Matt Taranto, one of my very good friends and one of the people I look up to and has taught me more about the MEDSPA business than likely most anybody in the world. And I suspect that if you're watching this on Mint, he and Kathy have taught you guys as well. And so I'm really excited today. We're on a series of interviewing people, and I'm having so much fun in doing it. We did one with Jill Weibel, and so we decided, hey, we're going to have to obviously interview Matt and probably Kathy one of these days. But today it's Matt. So Matt, welcome, and what a privilege to talk to you today. And I just want to say hi. How are you doing?
Doing great. I think this is such a great idea for the Mint e-courses. What you did with Jill Weibel was amazing. I know you got some really good ones coming up as well. I think the next one might be Joel Cohen, which is going to be wonderful. Yeah. And I think it's great for people to get a little background on the people who've been in this industry a long time, learn from their successes, but also learn from their failures. And I think you and I are the same. We got to be sponges, in this industry. And when I see somebody doing something great, my attitude can't be, well, I'm jealous of them because they're so good. My attitude should be, I want to learn from them because they're so good. And we try to instill that to our staff too. So I think these things are wonderful. I think they're a great learning opportunity.
Yeah. So for those of you, I suspect I have to assume that there might be somebody that's living under a rock out there that doesn't know who you are. But if you're on this call, you probably do. But let me just say that one of the things that, and I'd like for you have Mint Aesthetics, but you also have AesthetiCare, which is your med spa. We're going to talk about your expansion as well. But the thing that I can remember is just one of the most successful med spas in the country. And it's grown, crazy stats, grown. I think you've said it's grown 10% per year every year you've had it, if I'm not mistaken. And I just think that's an amazing number. And the proof's in the pudding. I want to know, it's kind of like in my golf game. I don't want to learn from the pro who shoots 78. I want to learn from the pro that's got the lowest handicap. And so that's what we're doing today. We're learning from the pro with a very good handicap and a track record. And so I want to tell the people how I first met you is I was speaking for Sciton, and I was speaking at a course talking about the clinical aspects, and you were talking before me. And I've heard a lot of people talk before me and after me and talk about how to run a business, but I'd never heard the things that you were saying. And so I whipped out a pen in about 5 minutes and started taking notes. And I've heard you talk, I don't know how many times. I'm always taking notes. And it's recently as an event in Ohio just a month or so ago, I'd say, well, I don't have to take a pen out today, but darn it, I did it, because I'm learning every time you talk. And so tell us a little bit about AesthetiCare and how did you get in the business? I mean, how did you get in this business, Matt?
I always tell people, and I don't know, Jay, if you've seen the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow.
I haven't.
And if you have, watch it, just because the premise, I think, is so amazing. So the movie starts and Gwyneth Paltrow is running to catch a train in London, and she barely makes it. She gets on, it's like a subway. And then the movie backs up and she's running to catch the train and she barely doesn't make it. And the movie splits into two. And it's what happens with her life because she made the train and what happens to her life because she didn't make the train.
Oh, wow.
And I always think, I always think back on that because literally a phone call got me into this business. I had a friend from college who worked for a company that you probably know, Paget Instruments. They make instruments for plastic surgeons.
Yeah.
Great job, traveled all over the world, all this stuff. And I had recently gotten back from Spain. I spent a year in Spain, just kind of took a little year sabbatical. I wanted to explore Europe. I was 32 years old. And when I got back, I didn't really know what I was going to do, but it was time to get to work and make some money. And she called, she said, hey, there's this company from Italy called Mattioli, and they're going to launch a thing called microdermabrasion into the United States. And this was like 95, 96, somewhere in there. And she said, it looks really cool. You should take a look at it. So I got in touch with them. I met with them. I thought, this is a really cool device. And my background had been in product development. I'd worked in product development, launching products into major retailers, things like that. And I thought, this is really, I like this kind of arena. So I helped them launch that product, just put them in touch with people. And then I thought, I actually would like to sell this product. So I moved back to Kansas City, and where I went to college at the University of Kansas, and I took a 6-state territory. And I started selling that, and I thought, okay, this is fun. I enjoyed it. Well, at that time, Jay, the laser companies were just kind of on the verge of coming out with some stuff. None of them used employees. They all used independent reps to market their stuff, and then skincare products. So after a few years, I had, a whole bag of goods that I was selling back then almost exclusively to plastics and derms, lasers, microdermabrators, skincare. I had a van. I traveled like 70,000 miles a year doing demos, really enjoyed it. And as you remember, Jay, some of these early lasers were pretty archaic.
Right.
And
are you still based in Kansas City at this point? In
Kansas City, I'm covering Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas. And I became pretty good with lasers. I got to the point where I could train people on lasers. This is back in the age of, ProLight and the Epi laser and Cool Touch, and we called it the Cruel Touch, if you remember. Man, every time you fired, it felt like a nail going through somebody's head.
Lovely.
And I really enjoyed it, and I was pretty successful at it. But what I started to realize after doing that for 5 or 6 years, and here I'm talking to a doctor, and I'm going to insult doctors, is the majority of doctors I worked with they just weren't good business people. Right. And I just saw them doing things that just didn't make sense to me and struggling in areas. And I thought, listen, if I'm going to be good at what I do, selling equipment to doctors, I should also be good at helping them do well with the equipment I'm selling. So I thought, why don't I open a clinic, a small little clinic? This was 2001. And in that clinic, I will only use the things I'm selling, so that now I can go in and say, listen, I'm not just trying to sell this to you. I use this every day. I have a nurse, an esthetician. So I rented 1,000 square feet, 4 treatment rooms. And we started a little med spa. It was actually the second one in this geographic territory. And luckily I found a great nurse, and we started using it. And that idea really worked. It gave me more credibility. I was able to help on more than just equipment. And I really thought that's all the clinic was going to be, just a little kind of a demo area that we use the equipment we sell. But what surprised me is I ended up liking that much better than I liked selling equipment. I really enjoyed the retail aspect of that business and the customer service. So over time, I just faded away from selling equipment. I focused on growing AesthetiCare. And what you said is probably one of the things I'm most proud of. When you're new, you can grow 100% from year 1 to year 2, and 50% say, but what I really want is let's never stop growing. And so what I'm very proud of is we've never grown by anything less than 10%, even after 20 years. And I think that's just a testament to my staff is what it is. But after proving that I could make that med spa successful, I realized I really would enjoy getting on the consulting side and sharing what I'm learning every day with doctors and business people around North America and helping them do this the right way. So that's really was the evolution of, at that time it's called Aesthetic Consulting Group, and then we changed it to Mint Aesthetics. So it's really evolved into the clinic, which we love, and we'll talk more about that. And then Mint Aesthetics, and we've been fortunate enough now, we've worked with over 1,600 clinics. We actually have clinics now in Australia, Puerto Rico, England. So we're getting a little bit of international flavor. But we really, my wife and I, Kathy, just love sharing what we do. And I think the credibility that we have is, we're not somebody who, hey, we ran a good med spa for 2 years, we sold it, made some money, and now we're going to teach people. We do this every day. And so we try to tell people, we practice what we preach. And if we're telling you something works, it's only because we've tried it and we've made it work. So that's kind of the story of myself and Kathy and where we've evolved into.
Well, we're going to talk about, how your practice really took off when you finally wised up and added Kathy, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But what I'd love to do is to know, and what intrigues me is, you've got a lot of pearls. There's a lot of things that I would say. I just started out in a solo practice, as you know, that you've helped me with over the last couple of years. And I've just got a lot of the things that we do, the way that we market, the way that we. I've built my practice so that I could market the way you do, the way that you've taught me. And you've got all these pearls about your perspective on management. And I'm going to have you talk a little bit about that. We don't have enough time in an hour to hear your lecture, but on the other hand, how did you, I'd love, we haven't talked about how you grew up or what happened before 32 years of age when you got the microdermabrasion inside. What do you think, what made you the good businessman? Who influenced you? How did you come up with these pearls? That would be interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. It's always fun to look back. And I remember I was at a meeting once, and it wasn't a business meeting. It was like a motivational meeting or something. And one of the big questions was, if you had to point out one person who influenced your life, who would it be? And I had to really struggle with that. My parents got divorced when I was very young. I really don't have much memory of my father. He was in the military. And I think until I was 20 years old, I saw him like 4 or 5 times, and that's it. Yeah. So my mother, loving mother, very devout Christian woman, but somebody who, looking back, didn't spend a lot of time with her kids. I mean, she kind of lived her life more for what was going on in her life. Right. So I grew up, I became very independent at a very early age. We had no money. Yeah. And I remember, my first job in Flagstaff, Arizona, in 6th grade, I got a paper route. I had like 10 lawns that I mowed. I just knew if I wanted something, and I had some friends who were pretty well off, if I wanted something, I had to figure out a way to get it.
Do you know an outstanding med spa, doctor, manager, provider, or groundbreaking treatment that is reshaping the industry? Nominate them for Mint's Clinics to Watch. We are so excited to launch this initiative to recognize the true leaders in our industry. Our aim is to spotlight those leading the way to excellence, providing valuable insights for others to pave their path to success. Check out our website for past winners of the Clinics to Watch. You can also nominate someone at the link in our show notes. Share your nominations and be part of celebrating the industry leaders. Let's inspire and build success together.
And so I think it instilled in me a pretty good work ethic. Yeah. And then in high school, my senior year of high school, I worked 35 hours a week. I took an early class and I got out of school at 1 o'clock. But I realized, listen, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to find jobs that I love. And I worked at a sporting goods store, and it was so much fun. And Dwayne Morris, the owner of that sporting goods store, taught me a lot because he created an amazing, fun work atmosphere. I worked there all through college too. I didn't make a lot of money there, but my gosh, was it a fun place to work, great staff. And then in college, I decided, I want to go to college. My brother and sister did, and I was the first one in my family, but I didn't want to take student loans. So I thought, well, I won't go 4 years. I'll go 5 years. I'll take some summer school. I won't take more than 12 hours a semester, and I'll work 40 or 50 hours a week. And people say, oh my God, that must have been a struggle. And I look back, I say, no, it was fun because I had fun jobs. I worked at the sporting store. I bartended at night at the most popular bar at KU. I arranged trips for a travel agent. I couldn't go on fancy spring break trips because I didn't have any money. I said, but I want to go. So I approached the travel agent and said, what if I get a bunch of people to go? Would you send me for free? And they said, yes. And so they said, if you get 10 people to go to Cancun, we'll pay you. And I got 65. And so they paid me and 3 of my friends. The next year I did to Bahamas with 85 people. And I just realized on it, man, if you put your nose to it, you can achieve a lot. And if you get creative. So I got out of college, and to be honest, I had a very average GPA. My first semester was a train wreck, but I ended up with about a 3.0 in public speaking and strategic communications. And which, to be honest, was not a hard major. It was a major I could get through and work a lot. I knew I kind of just needed a degree. But, in every job interview after college, and I was very fortunate, I got some good job offers, nobody talked about my grades. They talked about my work experience. And I think that's what impressed them. So I would tell you the way that my life turned out, of living in a family with no money, single parent home, having to rely on myself, taught me a lot that I can do things. I can make things work. I can figure it out. So I look back, I was really blessed that my mother loved us a lot. My brother and sister, we had a good relationship. It wasn't like I had a horrible home life. I just started to rely on myself at an early age. And then I started realizing that the things I don't know, I need to really look at people who have done, like we said earlier, great things. And I need to be a little bit of a sponge and emulate those. So It just turned out, and as you know, I tend to talk a lot, you can tell now. I ended up having a pretty successful career on the public end of business, selling, marketing stuff, because I kind of a little bit of a ham. And then I just stumbled into a wonderful career in aesthetics, which I love.
So I'd say marketing and service. You've got a great clinical. I think from selling those wares and understanding about it and running a clinic, I think you have an unusually good appreciation for what makes sense clinically, but also, for me, the way that you have emphasized service and work environment and all of that, it sounds like this sporting goods store where there was a great work environment impacted you a lot. And I guess the marketing, everything, you got that from your college degree and
No, not so much college, to be honest. I had a very kind of, and it's still my belief in marketing. I'll try just about anything. You come up with an idea, you say, oh, you should do a billboard. Well, fine, I'll try a billboard. I tried it 3 times. It didn't work very well. And then I realized I'm not going to do that again. Okay.
It's just trial and error. Trial and error.
But what I realized, Jay, early on is there will never be a more powerful way of market than face-to-face. That is it, hands down. There's nothing that beats that. And then my wife happens to be a big fan of Tony Robbins, and I, mixed feelings on him, but she loves him. And one thing I love that he says, you want to get somebody into your business, make an irresistible offer. And it really struck home with me because, and Jay, you've heard me say this before, I do not care how much money I make on you the first time you come to my clinic. I don't care if I lose money. What I care is that you come. I care that you got there and you were able to experience us, because I believe that we're so good at what we do that we have a really good chance of retaining your business. It's not going to happen every time. So I'm a big advocate of getting people in, whether it's with a complimentary treatment, a $200 gift card that they got through some sort of marketing, something that's irresistible that you say, I might as well use that. This is a great deal. And then I'm going to wow you with what we're able to the customer service, the consult, the way we treat you, the way we follow up, hopefully to a point that you're going to say, man, if I ever go anywhere else, I'm going there.
Yeah, so now we're back. I had a little welcome to the world of Zoom, and when you lose total power, it's really bad on the internet connection. So we're back, and Matt, you were talking a little bit about, I was asking you a little bit about how do you learn all this stuff, because I'm just fascinated at how much knowledge you have, and I use all of it. And so you were talking about how a little bit of it was trial and error, and you've tried a lot of things. And so I might even just go in a different direction now that we refocused. I'd love to ask you, hey, what has been your, you said the billboards didn't work. What do you think your biggest challenge was? You founded AesthetiCare, you thought it was going to be one thing, you loved it, and here you go. What are, either one of the things you would have done differently or one of the biggest obstacles in that early stage? Tell us about those things so we could try to avoid those.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good, it's always good, I think, to look back, because knowing what I know now, 20 years ago when I started AesthetiCare, my God, I would have gotten to where I am here so fast,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
only
That's
because, we learn.
that's why people are watching. They want to
Yeah,
get to where you are quicker. So
quicker.
yeah, tell us how to do that.
So one of my favorite stories is, so when I opened AesthetiCare, and as you know, one of the hard things about this industry, it's kind of an expensive business to open because of our equipment, right?
Sure.
You
Yeah.
open an ice, you open an ice cream store, you got to have the space and you get your initial inventory of ice cream, and then you just keep buying it as you sell it. We're buying $200,000 pieces of equipment, 150, 250. And so it's expensive. So I had saved up some money, and then I borrowed some money from a bank. And it was just me. And so I didn't have a lot of financial wherewithal to do elaborate marketing things. Couldn't go hire a marketing company and stuff. And this is before websites. So, one of my favorite learning lessons is I literally would go into parking lots personally, and I'd print flyers and I'd put them in windshields of cars. I look back now and say, okay, I would never do that. In fact, it may not be legal to do that anymore. But the weirdest thing is it worked. People would say, hey, I saw this flyer about a place that does Botox and laser hair removal and stuff. And I'm like, how simple of a marketing strategy was that? And
Yeah.
based on financial ability. Then I called a buddy of mine who had 2 high school boys. And I said, could I hire your 2 boys to go into select neighborhoods and spend a couple days hanging door flyers on people's front door, which again, I don't even know if you can do anymore. So we picked out neighborhoods, and I paid them $10 an hour. And, back then, these are high school kids. That's a good hourly wage.
Right.
And they went through these neighborhoods, hanging up little door flyers on doors. And guess what? It worked. It's a numbers game. I mean, everyone didn't work, but we probably did, 5,000 of those. And all of a sudden we started getting clients from that. And so I started thinking there's got to be better ways than just, at that point, newspaper, magazines, radio, TV, the traditional stuff. And I've tried all of those. I got to be honest, traditional marketing does not work so well for me. And if it works for other people, fine. I don't do any of it. I do a little bit of radio only because Allergan gives me 50% of the money back, in a co-op program. So we do a little bit of that for Cool Sculpting. But we just started to realize that we can market in a way that our competitors are not doing. And that really has been our philosophy. Let's market in a unique way. And as this evolved, what we learned was, if we can come up with an irresistible offer, that most people will not refuse that. And so we started getting involved in the community with clothing stores and jewelry stores and real estate agents and interior designers and high-end restaurants, and going and talking to the owners and the managers and saying, hey, you know what? Wouldn't you love to do something nice for your good clients? Well, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of $200 gift cards. You don't have to pay for it. And you can give it to a good client as a thank you. But before you do that, I want you to come to my clinic. I want you to see the clinic. I want you to have a couple of treatments, because I want you to feel good that you're sending somebody to a good place. So we build a relationship with the decision maker to business. We make sure they like what we're doing. Then we offer them a customer service tool, a thank you, a $100 gift card, a $200 gift card, a complimentary $189 hydrofacial. And we let them give those to their good clients, no charge to them. So why wouldn't they do it? They have nothing to lose. The key point to remember in this is develop that relationship with the decision maker first. I did a consulting job with a group in Atlanta a number of years ago, and they called me about 2 months later and said, we had a couple questions. Oh, by the way, your gift card thing doesn't work. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? They go, well, I sent so-and-so out. I said, go to 10 different businesses, give them each 10 $100 gift cards and ask them to give them out. And I said, whoa, you missed an important part. They don't know you. They have zero clue what you do. And if you're good, you got to get them to your clinic first, teach them about what you do, give them a treatment so they're kind of excited about your business, and then they're excited about referring it. And so, Jay, I will tell you, if I could have one thing to do over again, day one, I didn't have the time at the point, hire what I call an external marketing person, just even part-time, day or 2 a week, somebody who is well-versed in the community, knows their way around, knows a bunch of people, and can talk to a brick wall. And they're not selling anything. Your job is to be my eyes and ears in Kansas City. You look for opportunities with small to mid-sized businesses, charities, women's groups, events, healthcare, where we can have a booth. You look for opportunities for us to get active in the community. And Jay, it's the best marketing we do. And it's so inexpensive. It takes time, but not so much money.
Right.
And
So the expense is the salary of that marketer.
yeah, and think about this. You find somebody, even somebody who's already a client, a patient of yours, and you have a good relationship, you love them. Maybe they're a stay-at-home mom who would love to work a day and a half a week. And I pay, Lori Morrissey is who I use, and I pay her $25 an hour and free services. She is worth her weight in gold, Jay. I mean, do you know how much I pay her compared to a full page ad in a magazine? It's less.
Right.
And I've got a person dedicated to me. I remember, go ahead.
No, all I was going to say was I want to get to so many things that we're talking about, and that's just one example. And I'm assuming that I mean, I've looked at it myself, so I know the answer to this. But these pearls are expanded within Mint and
yes.
So everything
e-courses and yes,
all the e-courses I make all my staff watch that. You know, I've been privileged to participate in the program itself and give some clinical information. And I've really enjoyed that, being able to do this interview. But I want to make sure that I was thinking about how we're going to do it, because I just don't, all these lectures and all these points that you're making, they can have access to that through signing up for Mint and actually going and watching it. There's so much information there. And so that's just one example, and that we're implementing that now. You know, the fact that this irresistible offer is something that that we have utilized. You know, the marketing parties that you have, you know, they ought to go check that out, and how you talk about that, because I built my practice so that I could have a little place like you taught me. And it's so easy for these women to bring in their friends, because they're heroes, right? They get $100 gift certificate. The person that gives it gets $350 or something like that. And once we get them in, it's worked beautifully. I'm just going to give you kudos for that. And
well, you know, and you're right. And it's so easy. We had one the other night, had 10 women show up. 8 of them left having booked a consult, which is what I view as a victory. And they had fun. They had some wine, they had some hors d'oeuvres. They each got a $100 gift card. The host, because she had 10 people, got $700 credit.
Yeah.
You know, less than 10 3. And really what that took me is 2 hours of time. And the way that I look at it, Jay, is my average client, not a good client, an average client spends about $3,000 a year.
Right.
So out of those 10 women, what if I get one average client? I paid for it, but I'm going to get more than one. I know I'm going to get more than one.
Right. Right. So, so let me ask you right now. So you're right at 20 years into the business. And you actually are 20 years. Is that
20? Yeah.
And so tell me what excites you today about AesthetiCare, and you said what's the biggest the one thing, I think that's a great pearl. What's the one thing that you would do differently? And I want to make sure that everybody heard that. And that would be to hire an external marketer and do the things.
Get active in your community, be visible in your community. But I will tell you, I heard a quote years ago by Richard Branson, and who owns Virgin, you know, very kind of eclectic guy, really very adventuresome guy.
We found the perfect trio: virtual, quick, and free. Mint is hosting 1-hour clinical trainings for eCourse subscribers on the first Tuesday of each month at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. We will be covering clinical topics like Sculptra, Genius, BBL, and Hydrofacial. Check out the link below in our show notes to learn more. Hi all, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. We are always looking for feedback to make it better, so be sure to give us your feedback at the link in the show notes. If you're loving the podcast, we would really appreciate it if you would share it with a friend, rate us 5 stars, and write a review. This really helps other clinics and industry professionals find our podcast. Thanks. Now let's get back to the episode.
And it's, Jay, it's what I run my business on, period. And it's train your staff so well that they could leave you and get any job they want. Treat them so well that they will never leave you. And I will tell you, if you do that, it's almost impossible to fail. And you know this because you've known how we work things. The best money I ever spent, period, and I look at it as a marketing expense, is making my staff better. So when we wanted to get better at resurfacing, what did we do? You're considered one of the elite resurfacing doctors in the world. I paid you to fly to Kansas City and do a private resurfacing course for us. When we wanted to get better at scar revision, I flew Jill Weibel, and you guys aren't cheap, to come up, spend time with us and teach us hands-on. And I look at it and say, why wouldn't I do that? If somebody is so good at something, why am I going to waste the time trying to get there? I'm going to figure out, I'm going to learn from them. And I do this all the time, Jay. I was speaking at an event in Washington, D.C. a number of years ago, and there's a nurse practitioner there who I'd done a little work with, and she wanted to meet with me. She went through her numbers. Jay, she was doing like 1.6 million a year in injectables just by herself. And she told me she had developed this passion for earlobes and weird things. And I said, I really love you, your passion. How much for you to come to Kansas City for a day? I'll pay your airfare, your travel, to come work with my staff and just share what you've learned. She said, $4,000, done, do it. And people I work with clinics say, oh, that's a lot of money. That's just barely over one good client per year. Yeah. And that's the way I look at it. And so I'm going to find the best of the best. And I know if I pay them enough, they will teach me what they know. And we're never going to stop doing that.
Right. So, man, that's so valuable. Again, I want to stop interviewing and take more notes. That's great. So tell me, what do you think has been, these are all the pearls they can get with Mint, but what I'm trying to do today is figure out, I'm fascinated with what drives you and how you got there, and how can you, not everybody's Matt Taranto, but what drove you and how you can motivate people, to implement these things. Because I think the biggest thing that I've found is that, I think you and I both are visionaries, but it takes somebody to help us execute. And I know who your executor is. It's probably you, because you started that way, but I know Kathy is one of the best people to execute a plan that I've ever seen.
Far more organized than I am.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. So tell me a little bit about how you guys met. This is also a personal journey as well. So I've had a joy of just being with you guys over the last few years, and I'm going to comment on that in a minute. But I'd love to know exactly how you guys met and how you guys got together, both business and personally.
Well, and I love the story. Before I go into that, one thing you said, I will tell you something I've learned: hire based on your weaknesses. You and I are big picture people. Right. I don't like details. It's not something I enjoy. I'm probably not good at it. So I need to find people who can handle that portion for me. I don't need to hire myself, because there's certain things I'm good at, certain things I'm not good at. And that kind of morphs well into Kathy. Kathy has been in this industry for 20 years. She started in a very high-end skincare line. Then she got into medical aesthetics. She sold lasers. She ran a laser training facility in Phoenix for years, in Scottsdale. And we were at a meeting in Florida years ago. And I met her, and she was right. We happened to sit next to each other. We chatted. I had gone through a divorce. I was single. She was still married, but we just became friends. I saw her maybe twice a year at fun meetings. We started to do some work with Sciton, with BTL. And so we just kind of became peers. Yeah. And we were at a laser conference one year in Telluride, and we're out talking, and it turned out that her marriage had ended and she was single, and we chatted a little bit, and we just started texting each other. This weirdest thing, and I don't like to text. I text slowly, with one finger. But we just started texting each other. Turns out she's a big football fan, and I'm a huge football fan, as you are. And she grew up in Tulsa. OU was the team, and it turns out after about 6 months of chatting on the phone, OU was playing KU in Lawrence, and then the Chiefs were playing the next day. And I said, if you're free that weekend coming up, we'll go watch OU play at KU. We'll watch the Chiefs play. We'll have a little sports weekend. And she did. 6 months later, we were engaged.
There you go.
And it's just been a blessing to me, because I got to tell you, I was thinking, I like being single. I was a single dad, a great daughter. I said, I don't think I'll ever get remarried. And then she messed that thought up. But she was too good. She's just such a wonderful human being, and she's a wealth of knowledge in this industry. And what you said, she brings a different perspective. She is organized. She has her calendar out. She has timing, and I'm just like big picture all over the road. But so she really runs, she's a wonderful technician with procedures, and I probably have a little bit more business knowledge. And so I think the team has worked really well. She puts a lot of input to AesthetiCare. Back when I said hire based on your weaknesses, we are so blessed to have an amazing manager in Rick, an assistant manager in Tracy, that we feel comfortable. I know your staff, Jay, is amazing. Kathy and I can leave on vacation and know that nothing misses a beat. And I really encourage everybody out there, your success is going to be dependent on who you surround yourself with. And this is true in life, right? Not just in business. It's whether it's your spouse, your peer group, who do you show me your friends, I'll show you your future type thing. Your staff, you guys, it's all your staff. And the best book I can ever recommend to anybody to read is The Customer Comes Second. Right. And it's all about surround yourself with amazing people.
Right. So it's interesting. I think this is an important point. I'll take a little diversion for just a second. I want to talk about what Kathy adds, but what I was going to ask you was, most people would say you're the manager, but you hired a manager. So tell me, and you told me right from the start, the first thing you have to do is hire a manager. I was making mistakes because I was a surgeon. I was busy. I cared about the thing, but I just didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
And as surgeons, and a lot of people think, well, gosh, that may be $100,000 or whatever it is. It's a big salary for somebody who doesn't, quote, produce revenue. So people don't do it. And I hired one, and what I would love to know is, would say, well, wait a minute, Matt, I thought you were like the best manager ever, and Kathy's an executor. So tell me how you delegate those and what roles your managers play, and why that's really important. I think that would help people understand.
Yeah, and I think go ahead.
Because if you do it, everybody needs to do it, because everybody would think, hey, you don't need a manager. You got Matt Taranto and Kathy Taranto.
Yeah. Well, I think, and there's two different stages, I think, of any business. One, when you're brand new, you can really only do what you can afford to do. And when I was new, I couldn't afford to hire a manager. I mean, I didn't have the money to do it. But a lot of times, and I've changed the way I think, it's very important sometimes to take a step back to allow yourself to take 2 steps forward. And so we got to a size that there's just no way I personally could do what needs to be done every day, every hour of every day, to make sure it runs in a way that people are very impressed all the time with our business. And so I would highly recommend that once you get to the point financially where it makes sense to hire somebody to handle the details, and going back, I'm not a detail person, and managing a staff is not an easy job. And especially when you get to our size, I have 30 women that I work with, and my manager is way better at the day-to-day dealing with, any type of issues going on than I am, because I'm very simplistic. I would say, oh, we'll just get over it. Don't worry about that. But he looked into it. He's just a blessing. And the thing is, his experience and my assistant manager's experience is in retail. And I love that, because we are a retail business. We're no different than a jewelry store. People don't need what we do, and we're not covered by insurance. And so it's all about customer service, which they have such great experience in. So making sure you are able to look at yourself and understand, what time do I have to put in the business? What are my skills? And more importantly, what do you love doing? I want to focus on things I'm good at and that I love. And the other things, I need somebody else to do that for me. And you and I have talked, Jay, at our point in our career, and you and I are about the same age, it's so much more about quality of life. It is. It's, we've been blessed and we've had some success in this industry. I get up every morning and I love my job, but I also love playing golf. Okay. And I want to have a balance, and I love spending time with my wife and my kids. So I want to balance. And for me to have that balance, it's not going to be me spending 80 hours a week trying to handle every detail of my clinic. I need some help.
Right. Well, this is, I have to tell you, Matt, this is an easy interview for me, because I don't even have to ask the questions. You're already telling me some of the things I want to know, I'd like the readers to know, what fills your tank? I think you just told me family and even your job is really important and really fills your tank. And then what are the things that doesn't fill your tank? I assume it's the details and the execution, but because you want to try to avoid that. Yeah. And your hobby is golf, and anything else you want to expand on that about what fills your tank, things you try to avoid that I try to avoid things that bring me down. I try to identify it and try to avoid that in my life if I can. And any thoughts on that? Just
Yeah.
personally. I just want people
Biggest thing is long meetings
Yeah,
where sit down, long meetings, that aren't productive. That it's just like nails on a chalkboard to me. Let's sit down, let's figure it out, let's move on. I will tell you, Jay, when I look at my job and what I do, I love the creative aspect of it. I love researching that next great technology and talking to people, and really vetting technology before we add it, because I only want to have things on our menu that we truly believe in. And that's exciting to me.
yeah.
I love exploring new marketing opportunities. I love growing through adding staff. And I will tell you that if I've had outside consultants come and look at my books, and do you know the first thing they say to me? Your payroll's too high. And I say, listen, I understand that, but I don't think that's the right answer in our industry. Because if I want the very best employees, I need to pay them better than my competitors pay. And I do. And a lot of people would say, you could really squeeze a lot more net out of your business. And I'm not trying to sound altruistic. It's fun to make good money. We have a nice living. My biggest joy, and it's not even close, is providing amazing jobs for wonderful people and watching them blossom. I will talk to some of my staff and see who have been with me. You're about to see a woman, a nurse who's worked for me for 20 years. She's coming down to see you. I have a gal, her name's Jessica, who you'd hire 50 times over. Always hire farm girls. They work their tail off. And this girl, she started with me, and I took her from a massage therapy job. She was making $18 an hour. I thought I was going to have massage. Stupid idea. It's not a smart thing to add one massage therapist. She was so good, though, that we started training her in some things long, like skin tightening treatments that aren't very exciting, but she loved them because to her, 30 minutes is nothing. She was doing 90-minute massages. She liked the industry so much. Since she's worked for me in 13 years, she's gotten married. She's had 3 children. She put herself through nursing school. And last year she made $130,000. When I see that, I'm telling you, it gives me goosebumps. Because
and I flew my team up to spend a day or two with her to figure out how to do what she does well. And because I'm learning from you. So that I just did what you said you did. I flew my staff up to work with Jessica. That's really an interesting story, how it ties together there.
Oh my God. And it just, to me, it makes everything we do worth it. When I see people that I can help them achieve goals in life and blossom their career, because I tell everybody, and I think this is important. We have a very elaborate hiring process, and it's on our e-courses, but the final interview is me when I offer the job. And the first thing I do, Jay, in that interview is say, listen, I'm going to tell you why you should not work here. 1, the world is filled with average people, and that's fine. If you're one of those, do not work here. We do not settle for average. Okay. I only am going to hire people who have this strong, strong desire to be the best of the best. And I'm going to give you all the tools, but I can only do so much. You have to have that desire. Okay. If you're somebody who loves to gossip, backstab, create a little drama, that's fine. Don't work here, because we don't tolerate that. We want to have a place that on your way to work, you're excited to be here. This is a family. Okay. If you're somebody who believes you have to have a specific job description and anything outside of that description you're not going to do, don't work here. Because I don't care if you're the best nurse here, you're going to clean a treatment room and you're going to empty trash and you're going to check somebody out the front desk, because we all do it. Because I tell all my staff every day, walk through the door with one thought in your head. Today, I'm going to make all my coworkers' job better. If we do that every day, can you imagine the work environment? And then I say, listen, I'm going to offer you this job. I'm going to expect you to be the best of the best. I'm going to expect you to work your tail off. I'm going to expect you to treat people incredibly well, but in return, I'm going to pay you incredibly well. You're going to love working here because we laugh and we have fun. We have bonuses. We go on vacation together. You're going to love this work environment, but you got to add to that. You can't distract or detract from it. And so I'm just very honest. And then I tell them, in 90 days, you and I are going to sit down again. And I'm going to ask you, did you make a good choice? You've been here 3 months. Look back. Did you make a great choice? Are you excited about this position? You look at it as a long-term opportunity. You feel like you're a good fit for the team. After I see you work for 90 days, I'm going to let you know, did I make a good choice? Because I believe the Nordstrom motto of hiring: hire the smile, train the skill. Hire based on what you cannot teach. We can teach anybody with a brain to operate a laser, a nurse to do injections, to work the front desk. We can teach that. I can never teach somebody to be happy. ethical, passionate, fun. And that's what I'm looking for. So I hire based on what I cannot teach. And I just make sure we're very clear that we only want the best of the best.
You know, it's really funny, man. This interview is about you and not me, but it's just so interesting. That's why I like these interviews, right? Because I know the principle, the direction, the overarching thing that you just talked about. But what every time I talk to you, the little details, the reason I want to take a note is I haven't done some of those specifics about this is not a place for you to work. That's why these interviews are really important, and why people listening to this interview should watch our next follow-up where they can actually ask Q&As, and they say, you know, the kind of person that said, hey, these gift cards don't work, you know, or whatever is the stumbling block that you've watched you or Matt. Because if you're listening to me, it's just amazing for me to listen to you. And I've implemented all of this in my new business that's been open about 7 or 8 months. We're doing extremely well by God's grace and by your teaching, because I did that. I just interviewed a girl this week, and she was making a lot more money being a Durham PA. And I said, I can't offer you that right off the bat, but here's what I can offer you. I can offer you better than that in 5 years or in 2 years or in 3 years, but I have to teach you and I have to educate you. And this is the culture. So I said, just come and spend a couple of days being here with in our culture. And she actually took a cut in salary and said, because I just want this culture. I want this work environment. I'm young. I see the future. And that's because, you know, I emphasize what you emphasize, and that's education and culture and no gossip and that kind of thing.
It's so true. People don't leave great jobs. I mean, sometimes, listen, you're going to lose somebody gets transferred or something, a husband. Sure. But the first thing I do when I start consulting with a business, especially businesses that a lot of come to us and they're struggling, I said, let's go over your staff. How long have they been here? I just worked with the group. I can't remember if it was in Phoenix or it was a phone interview or a Zoom interview. And I went through their staff, and it was like, oh, she's been here for 2 months. She's been here for 7 months. She's been here for a year. She's been here for 3 months. They've been open for 6 years. And I said, well, why so short? Oh, you know, nobody wants to work. Everyone leaves. They quit. They're not good. Everyone's crazy. And the first thing I said to this doctor, I said, it's you. I said, you're not paying me to blow wind up your skirt. If you have that much turnover in all areas, you're the common denominator. So let's talk about your work environment. And it's really a slap in the face, but it's an eye-opening, you know, deal. If people leave you on a regular basis, you're doing something wrong. Yeah. You're either hiring the wrong people, but most likely you have a work environment that's not worth staying at.
Yeah, you know, I think that, you know, in my personal life as well as my business life, I just think it's important, you know, even in my personal life, I surround myself with men who I've given them permission to tell me that I've got spinach on my teeth, because I don't want to walk around with spinach on my teeth. And the point is that you need wise counsel, right? You need it in life, because lack of self-awareness is a death sentence. And so your consulting is what you're doing. I think that's fantastic, and why people should actually hire you guys to come in like you've done for me and help me say, hey, this is the problem and let's go fix it. So let me ask you this. What do you think, we've got a few minutes left, but what do you think your greatest accomplishment is?
Need an onboarding program for your medical aesthetic clinic? The Mint Aesthetics online e-courses are the perfect resource for your entire team. Our all-inclusive annual rate grants your team unlimited access to over 30 courses, more than 170 hours of educational and hands-on video, and well over 600 downloadable resources. The best part? We're constantly adding fresh, valuable content. Check out the Mint e-courses for your team today. Visit us online at mintaesthetics.com or give us a call at 913-338-2553. Get started on your journey to excellence today.
Oh my gosh, without a doubt, is the relationships that I've helped form. I formed with my staff. You know, Jay, you know, I'm blessed to have a wonderful family. My staff is the biggest blessing outside of my family in my life, because I look at them as great friends. I look at them as people that I learn from. I look at them as people that I can help them achieve their goals in life. We had a girl, and this just warmed my heart. I was pulling in my parking lot. She was pulling in. We were walking in together. Her name's Chrissy. And she said, listen, I got to tell you something. I was thinking about you today or on Sunday over the weekend. She goes, I just can't express how blessed I am to be here. She said, I was going to pay a bill that 2 years ago, and she's only been there 2 years and she's a superstar. She goes, I would have had to call and budget out. I wouldn't have been able to afford to pay it. Said, not only was it easy for me to pay because you're paying me so well, but my husband told me he's never seen me happier. And she said, it's because I love what I do. And Jay, that is way better than me making an extra $50,000 or $100,000 a year by cutting payroll or whatever. I just love the fact that people who work at AesthetiCare and people who work for Mint truly love their job. To me, that's about as good of a career goal that I could ever imagine.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to do these interviews for is because I want people to really know, you speak all the time, but, do you go home and, are you a different guy at home? Are you a different guy in AesthetiCare and whatever? And because I think that, there's a lot of people that write papers. There's a lot of people that get on the podium, but you and I both know when someone in particular gets on the podium, you and I both know that you can't trust that person,
a lot of them,
or who can you trust? And so the point is, I just want to make just a couple of seconds to say, I've got an opportunity at this point. I'm very selective about how I spend my time. And you've done the same thing as I'm thinking here. You've done the same thing with me. This is a place, Mint, and you and Kathy are a place that it fills my tank. And I want to be there. I'm almost like your employee in our relationship here at Mint, because I know that Kathy's going to execute and take me by the collar, which I need, you do too, to say, hey, you need to show up here, do this, whatever. And on the other hand, I know you really, you love and care for me. We've become friends. It's a place I love doing these interviews, and I want them to know that I've been to AesthetiCare. I've walked with you for a number of years, and you are what you say you are. And the fact that you and Kathy and I'm, when we have the evenings off, and the way that you guys hold hands and love each other, it's really a cool thing to watch. And I that's just a gift. But I just want them to know that what you're doing, you do it every day, and it's no BS. And I've implemented it, and it's freaking working like a champ. And the reason I went solo is so that I could implement the things I wanted to implement. And a lot of that, and most of that, is what you've taught me. So,
and real quick before we wrap up, one thing, and I love the thing, there's a saying, who are you when no one's watching? I will tell you, as good as I may sound, okay, and I think I know how to teach well, and I think I know how to motivate well. Man, it's paying attention to it on a consistent basis. Yesterday, on a whim, I had a few minutes. I clicked on a link where we can listen to all our phone calls. All our phone calls are recorded. And Jay, I teach phone skills. I'm very particular that phone call has to be answered incredibly well, or else all your marketing time and effort and dollars are wasted. And I think our front desk is great. I love these women who work there. One of them has been with me for 14 years. Jay, I listened to 2 phone calls, and both of them made my skin crawl. It was, whoa, what is that? Why was that not said, or why was that said? So I called my front desk manager and I said, okay, it's time to refocus on this. We're going to have some meetings every week. We're going to play these sample phone calls, not to embarrass somebody, but to learn, because it's human nature. Maybe I can come into a clinic or in my staff and get people pumped up and get them excited. But if you just stop and never revisit that and make sure it's being done, sometimes you fall into routine. Sometimes you fall into, I do the same job over and over, and the quality just starts to dip a little bit and you don't even notice it. So we have 2 staff meetings every month. And sometimes I just screw up, and it's like, it's been too long since we've kind of focused on the phone. And my assumption was everything's perfect up there. And I listened to some phone calls that were really good, but I thought, you know what? It's time to revisit that. And so I think the communication in your staff is so important. I think never, ever stop trying to be great.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you'd like to submit a question for Matt, check out the link in our show notes or send your questions via email. If you want to check out our other expert exchange episodes with Dr. Jill Weibel, Dr. Joel Cohen, and Dr. Jay Burns, you can find those within the Mint online e-courses on our website at mintaesthetics.com. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you next time.